Welcome. It's so good to see you all here today. Um, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Julie Wagner. I am the CEO of NACM, and I also work for the Aging Life Care Association. And I wanted to briefly introduce our three presenters today. We have Byron Cordes, Nancy Avatable, and Julie Bolt. They are all three members of the NACM Board of Directors, as well as members of the Aging Life Care Association and professionals in the field of care management. Um, we're going to start with a short presentation and then have time to answer some of your questions and answers at the end. And if you could put in the chat maybe where you're from and why you are choosing to take the CMC exam and how you heard about it. We'd love to get to know you a little bit as well. And with that, I will turn it over to Byron.
Huzzah, thank you. Good morning to everybody in my time zone. Good afternoon to anybody east of me, maybe. So thank you guys for joining us. First off, who is NACM? The National Academy of Certified Care Managers. And our mission, I think most of you can probably read that, but to support a high level of competency in the practice of care management through the administration of the CMC certification and the recertification period. So, our goal is to elevate care management. And I think, part of it is because so many care managers come from different backgrounds, right? Social work, nursing, gerontology, physical therapy, occupational therapy. I'm leaving probably 100 other fields, psychology, leaving some folks out, I know, and I apologize, but this kind of helps bind us all together. Since there's no one licensure, this is kind of the certification for care managers. So our statement of purpose is that NACM endorses the voluntary certification by examination for all individuals practicing care management. And certification can help protect consumers by ensuring that we're competent, right? If we can pass this exam, we should hopefully have the core competencies in the domains, and we'll talk about those in a minute. So certification is highly valued, and it provides a formal recognition in the profession of care management. Okay, next slide. So NACM is the premier organization dedicated to elevating the field of care management. And I would, through a rigorous certification program, ongoing education, and supportive community, NACM empowers care managers to deliver exceptional client care. And when we say elevating, we're the premier organization, we're really probably we are the test for care management. So many other certifications are for case management. So next slide. So CMC certification promotes the delivery of safe and effective care management in any practice setting by establishing standards of experience and knowledge required for competence, ethical practice of care management. Am I going on too long, Julie? You muted me.
Sorry, that was an accident. I think Julie Bolt was going to be talking
I
about
was going to
this.
say, I
That was
just
all.
realized I'm not even talking about this. Let me hand it over to Julie Bolt you can see we rehearsed this real well.
Okay, so my name is Julie Bolt, and what's important to me out of these slides is that we do have ethical practice of care management, which I tell all my clients about because I feel like it's really important that I don't take any money from anyone to make referrals, that I'm doing it from an education and a vetting perspective. I also like the fact that I had to take a test because it meant that I had to study and I had to really try. I had to examine things that I wouldn't have examined before, like, for example, special needs, which now end up being my client. People who have special needs are now my clients, but I wouldn't have thought to learn about that. I also love the fact that we have professional education is ongoing, and the recertification is so important because, again, I wouldn't probably do it unless I had to, being honest. for me, all the reasons that you've seen are reasons why get certified. For me, I went back when I was 40 to get my master's in gerontology, and then realized without, working under somebody and getting certified, I couldn't actually practice. So this was the only way for me to get into this field, because I couldn't clearly qualify for a social worker's test. Next. Yeah, and when you compare a certificate program versus a certification, first of all, no one knows what a certificate program is. For me, I got a master's, and it was a master's program, but it still wasn't as valuable. It was a precursor to getting the certification. It's what I had to do to get the certification. So again, the certification was more important because it forced me to go back to school so that I would be better prepared.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in because
Yeah.
the certification. So there is a difference between a certification program and a certification. So a certificate program is something that sometimes universities offer. There are other, other institutions that sometimes will offer a certificate. And so you can take, right, some short courses. The University of Florida offers, a certificate program in agent and care management. So does, I think, Webster University, or at least they used to.
UMass. And
Well, not a master. So it's not, they're not degrees, they're
no.
certificates.
They do that too. And so does UNC Charlotte, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the certification requires that you already have the education, that you have training in the field, that you have supervised work experience, at least certification through NACM, and that you pass a rigorous exam. We do have to be careful because there are other certification programs. There are, online certification programs that you can get. You study for a weekend and you get a certification, and I'm certainly not denigrating them, but they are different. And so the certification in care management, you have to pass the exam. You have to have the prerequisite education, and we do have high standards. I was going to apologize for not apologizing. We don't apologize for those high standards. And so you do have to have supervised work experience. And we'll talk about that a little bit, because I do think the supervision, it doesn't have to be your historical thought of supervision. It can be peer certification. So you can be working in the field on your own. You can have a private practice. You could be working in an institution that doesn't, offer that. You're in a AAA, you're in a home health setting, you're in some other setting, and you don't really, your boss isn't qualified to oversee your work or consult with you. So you can get a peer to do those. So we can talk about that more. So why the CMC? Again, it is the only nationally recognized certification specifically for care managers. We are accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies. That means we are certified to give out our certificates, and they hold us. This one little line doesn't do it justice. Julie Wagner's having conniptions. It's a huge process. It was a huge process, and it's an ongoing huge process. They rigorously look at all of our policies, our procedures, our testing, the quality, the way that we conduct the test is then overseen by NCCA. And so they hold us to very high standards, and a lot of certification programs that, again, you can get online out there, they are not accredited. So not only does it give you the certification, thank you, but it also benefits your clients, patients, and families. And I think, as Julie Bolt was saying, that it's a badge of honor to set us apart and show to our clients that we're held to this high standard. Okay, next. So the domains, I think I'm still on.
No, I think that's me,
Oh,
but
that's
is it
you, Nancy. See,
Okay,
I can't
Yeah,
count slides.
no problem.
Social worker, not a math major.
So, well, yeah, I was just thinking as I prepared for the presentation that I have a son who is turning 21, and I took my CMC exam when I was pregnant with him. So I've had it for 21 years.
Wow.
That's crazy. Anyway, so I think I've probably recertified about 6 times, or maybe it's 5, also not being a math expert. Anyway, to go on to the exam content domains. I want to reiterate what Byron said. The great thing about the exam is it's basically proof that you know the things that you're already doing. So we look at domain 1, assessing a client, identify strengths, needs, concerns, and preferences. Domain 2 is establish goals and a plan of care. Again, many things you're probably already doing in your current job. Domain 3, test, your ability to initiate, manage, monitor ongoing execution and outcomes of your plan of care. And then domain 4, promote, maintain professional standards in care management and business practices. And, with the certification comes evidence of your commitment to quality care, quality support, and services to clients and families. Evidence of your commitment to community-based care, continuity of care, quality of life, and then, professional development and continuous learning. And I'll probably mention that again, but as I said, I think I've recertified 5 times, which means that I had to get a certain amount of continuing education credits during a 3-year period, which, continues to support my knowledge base. And of course, that this is a person-centered care system that is holistic in its approach. And then your certification demonstrates your competency in aging and disability issues, community services and resources, chronic disease management, benefits and financing options, legal and ethical concerns, special needs and advocacy, and family and individual support. Again, probably exactly what you're dealing with in your own agencies and in your own work. And then, your certification enhances your professional future. You become, identifying you with this prestigious credential. And I believe attracting, a higher kind of level of referrals now that you have this proof of your competency. Again, I already mentioned the continuing education and I think Julie mentioned our ethical framework, and increasing opportunities for jobs and advancement and increased earnings, which we hope come along with that.
I'm going to go ahead and quickly review the application process and the eligibility criteria because that is what we get asked most about when people are looking at the exam. The first thing I'm going to say is to read the entire handbook. Honestly, every question that you're going to ask is probably explained in detail in the handbook for candidates. So definitely look at that and read it again. And then if you have a question, look back. We're happy to answer questions, but it is everything is in there. The application process is entirely online, and you actually apply through the Professional Testing Corporation. We do not handle the application process here in the NACM office. Once your application is submitted, you will pay at the time of submission. So really do look at the eligibility criteria and make sure you are eligible before you're submitting your application. Once it's approved, you will receive an invite to schedule your exam, and you'll make that through the Prometric Testing Center. And then it's time to prepare and get ready. You take the exam, and then once you pass the exam, you'll become a CMC. The exam results are sent out within 30 days after the close of the testing window. So that means for our April exam, you'll receive results at the end of May. So just be aware of that. And our upcoming exam, we have 2 exams a year. And the one that we hope you're interested in learning about applying for is in April, and the deadline to apply is March 1st. And that deadline is pretty inflexible. So I would say to really get your things in advance, a few days if possible. So if there's any questions or follow-up, they will get back to you, and you'll have to resubmit through the online portal any additional information requested, and then the process will continue.
And Julie, if I can quickly, someone asked, if the exam is online or in person, they're at testing centers, PTC contracts with testing centers across the country, so they are in person.
Correct. So you do go in person to the testing center.
And then
They
take it
are,
online.
yeah, and there is a list that you'll get access to look at and apply. They are all over the country. There's like 2,000 of them. But they may be where you have to drive a few hours to a larger city to take the exam. And it is the whole month of April is when the exam is available. So you get to schedule kind of around your availability within the month. And then regarding the eligibility requirements, there are 4 options to apply for the exam, and they are all equally valid. So like it doesn't matter if you apply at option A or option D, if you meet the criteria, you sit for the exam, and you can take it. They are all based on your education and your work experience as a supervised care manager. So you do need to use the degree. That your work experience has to be after you've earned your degree. So sometimes that can determine which degree you're using in order to meet the eligibility criteria. And then the things that you have to the criteria that has to be met is you have to be currently working in the field of care management. You have to agree to adhere to the NACM Code of Conduct or Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice. You have to have the requisite supervised care management experience based on the level you're applying for or the option you're using. And then you have to have the right amount of experience within the last 10 years. And if you apply under C or D, you will also need some additional direct client contact experience. And we're happy to answer more questions about that because this is, again, where some of the questions come. And then just regarding the supervised care management experience, Byron did mention that briefly, and again, it can be peer-to-peer or formal or informal, and it is expected to include things such as the use of clinical skills and core care manager functions, record review, case examples, current practice issues and ethical dilemmas, care plan development, care management interventions, and quality evaluation measures, just to give some examples. And there's more information on that in the handbook as well. And I think about the exam, just briefly, the exam is 180 scored questions and 20 pre-test questions. And those are just things that the testing company is looking at for future exams. And you have 3.5 hours to take it. And all of the questions are created by a panel of subject matter experts, both who have been in the field for a long time, as well as newly certified certificants who go through and review the questions and really make sure that they're relevant and current in the work that you're doing to prepare the exam. And then preparing for the exam as a candidate, we do have some ways to do that. I will say I am not an aging life care manager by trade, but I've been told, and Nancy stated as well, that really the experience, the preparing for the exam is the experience, right? The work experience that you've been doing all along. But there are additional ways that you can prepare. We do offer a CMC exam prep course, which goes over 5 knowledge areas in 5 different webinars, and you can take them as a series or individually. There's also an online practice test that is offered through the testing company, through PTC, and that really gives you more experience with the way the exam is actually going to be. So the online process, how it works, and give you, especially if you have some anxiety with test taking, that might be a good thing for you to do to prepare. And then back to the handbook for candidates, which does have a list of the content domains, the tasks, the knowledge areas, and a list of all of the references for the exam questions and where they all came from. And those are all great ways to prepare for the exam. And back to Byron.
So now my question, what are you waiting for, right? You guys are now experts in the exam. So we would love for everyone in the world to be a CMC. Everybody who's qualified, we should start there. So I think as Julie Wagner had said, read the NACM handbook. That's online. You can download it, you can print it, you can peruse it at your leisure. Complete the application and then schedule your exam. And it really is that, it's that simple. I say that, but the application is actually pretty simple. And as Julie said, that Nancy said, your experience really is your study guide. But that being said, I've had all of our care managers in our practice are certified. We have some with test anxiety, some without. And so, some have poured through the journals, others walked in cold, and we've all passed. So,
Can you
okay,
give
next
us
slide.
score on what is the passing rate? What do you have to score do you have to get to pass?
It actually moves a lot. Actually, Julie Wagner, I'll let you answer that because you probably answer it a little bit better. But it is pass fail, so it's typically 70%, but that some questions, because of the way they're written, may get thrown out, if that makes sense, especially those the testing test questions. So, but it's typically pass fail, so 70%